everybody, and welcome back to another Pirates Chess video. Today we got another game review that I played a little earlier on, 5-minute Blitz rated. This was the first rated Blitz game that I took serious and tried to win. I played maybe 3 or 4 a few months ago, just kind of testing out what I like, how to play, and I realized at that time that I couldn't play Blitz because I just wasn't fast enough. Fast forward a couple months, a little better now, so I figured I'd give Blitz another shot. And we have this game, which is 45 turns long. So, we're going to get into a little game review here. Watch it, check it out, and it should be a fun time. So I'm just going to go over request and analysis here. We can kind of go through and watch that. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And if you like my videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to know a little bit more about me. So, let's go into this. Actually, I just want to see how many times I blundered. 7 blunders, getting it. Because that is the motto on Pirates Chess, just blundering around on the chessboard. But I mean, honestly, for a 5-minute Blitz game where you're not fast enough and you're trying to think of the best possible move as fast as you can and it's just not working, I mean, you're going to blunder. And 7 I think is not too bad for my first kind of actual game. So we're going to go through this. I played e4 as I am white. And my opponent did a Caro Kann, which, I'll be honest, I haven't gone much up against, and I don't know the best defense against it, simply because I only know 4 openings. So, let's get this going. So, e4, c6, Caro Kann. I did knight c3 like a Vienna defending my center pawn because I figured it was just good development. He brings his pawn down, I defend again. Now he's attacking my knight. That's fine. I reroute the knight, attacking his pawn. He brings his knight out, attacking my center pawn, which it doesn't really matter to me because that pawn's defended, so I take his center pawn. Which, I mean, he could have taken with his queen, but that doesn't do much for him, and my pawns are all defended. He brings his bishop out, attacking my queen. I can't take, right, obviously, because his knight is defending his bishop. It's kind of like a trap, I guess, for beginners. They might not notice that and fall for it and be like, oh, hey, bishop, and then be like, oh, no, my queen. So, but g4 is, it is a blunder. Just because, I guess, it can be easily thwarted. Okay, so I bring my knight out. Standard. I'll gladly trade knight for bishop any day. He attacks my knight. I move my knight down, attacking his pawn. Kind of like the same thing I did at the beginning there on e2. Just kind of rerouting and then moving up for the attack. Again, he doesn't defend his pawn. So that's going to be a free pawn at some point in time. I move my pawn up, taking the pin off my queen and my knight, and attacking his bishop. He moves bishop back. I move my knight out, giving my queen space to breathe. He takes my knight. That's kind of the first mistake of the game. Moving my knight out wasn't important. I really didn't need to move my knight out. And my knight, honestly, my knight on b3 isn't doing much. What I should have done, and my kind of original plan for moving to b3 was to take this pawn. So when he moved his bishop all the way back, now attacking my knight, I should have taken his pawn, because that, had I gone there, it attacks his bishop. So he probably would have had to move his bishop, right? I would see, I mean, he could bring his pawn down if he wanted to, attacking my knight if he didn't want to move his bishop. But then either you could sack and take the bishop and then lose your knight to a pawn, ruining his kingside pawn structure if he decides to castle that way, or you move what happened to my arrows here? You move your knight up to the b7 square, and now you're attacking his queen, right? So you have options. So that was definitely the first mistake of the game that I think I did, because there's really no reason to move my knight out to g3. It does nothing other than defend my center pawn, but it's not really necessary because it's super defended. It's over defended at this point. So he takes my free knight. I take with my a pawn, opening up the a file, which is always a good thing to do. He moves pawn, bishop open, or bishop into to e2, just kind of like preparing, getting it out, developing it, castling. He's now attacking on the a side with his pawns. He's pushing his pawns. What do they call that? A pawn break, kind of, going for it. So at this point, he brings a pawn down. And it's kind of like, which pawn do you take with? I'm obviously going to take with my double pawn. He brings bishop down, attacking my queen. Again, I can't take because his knight is defending it. He's playing very well, and it's kind of annoying. So I just bring my pawn up, attacking his bishop, guarding my queen. And he can't move out to the a square because my rook would take him. Though I guess like his knight could take my rook, so that might not be beneficial. So bishop back gives me a check. I move over. He castles, so we're castled on the same side. I move my pawn up and out and take his pawn, attacking his knight. He takes, and now, so it's not a mistake for him to take this pawn. Not a mistake. However, it leaves his rook open, though it is kind of like a rook trick, because if I take his rook, he takes with his queen. But I said, what the hell? It's a rook. Get it off the table. Don't want it. Don't want it. He takes with his queen. Now, in this position, it looks kind of bad, right? His queen's got an open file, and he can come right down and just start eating things. But it's pretty well defended, right? Like, he can't come down to a1 because my pawn is there. He can't come down to a2 and take my pawn because my bishop defends my pawn. He can't come to a3 because my pawn defends it, right? He can't go to a4 and go down to, like, d1 because my queen defends it. My queen also defends c2. The only real square that he could go to is b3, but that doesn't do much for him. Yeah. So I push my pawn up, attacking his bishop. Now it leaves the a1 square open, but I'm pretty sure in game I didn't realize this. Though I don't think it's really too bothersome, because if he goes down to a1 and he decides to take my bishop, I mean, my bishop's kind of stuck down there anyways, and the reasoning behind like kind of like moving my pawn up was to try and get my bishop out and do some other things. But if he takes my bishop, I could just take his queen with my rook or with my queen, right? So it's still pretty well defended. He moves his bishop back. I move my bishop out, right? Because I'm trying to develop. And now the a1 square is defended again. Easy. He moves his rook out. I move my rook out, challenging a trade. I'm like, I'm going to take my rook. I take your queen, or I take your queen. So he moves his queen down. I move my pawn up, and now I'm going to start attacking on his king side. Yes. Moving the queen out. He takes with bishop. I move my queen all the way up. I'm not even worried about him taking my knight. I'm just putting pressure. He moves rook over. I move rook up. And then he moves his rook down. Now in this position, this is a blunder because of this knight. I didn't realize at the time that his knight could take this. So I realized after, I should say. I realized after I put my knight there. I was like, oh, that's not good. Because he could take rook with knight. And then if I take his knight with my queen, he takes with his queen. And then queen goes all the way down to g1. And she's checkmate. So I was like, yeah, that's not happening. So I definitely wouldn't have taken back had he taken my rook. But he moved rook down. Now it should be noted that we're getting really low on time here in our 5-minute blitz. I moved my rook up to give him a check and taking my rook out of danger from his knight. He moves his rook up. I take with his rook. I take his rook. I'm just like, it's fine. He takes with his queen. I take his knight. Now, as you can see here, the best option, which for this very reason, the best option, I guess maybe not, because maybe he didn't want to leave his queen hanging. He didn't want to have like a trade of queens. But the computer's saying the best option is to take the rook with the knight, hanging the queen, which I would win. And then I would also probably take his knight after I gave his king a check. So it's a weird line that the computer analysis is taking. But I guess he's got his bishop on f4. So I guess, yeah, it would be a trade of queens. As I ramble on about random lines that probably don't make any sense, and you're like, why is he talking about this? I don't know, because I don't see things even in my analysis, all right? Yeah, so his best option is to take rook with knight. But he takes with queen, so I take his knight. Perfect. And my queen is saved from the bishop. He moves pawn down. Now he's going to start attacking on his king side and developing. I'm just going to push pawns on any side. He takes my pawn, or he takes my knight, and I take back, opening up my h-file to my king, which doesn't really matter at this point because his queen's all the way on the other side and he has no rooks, and there's no real way for him to get over there. Now he can take that pawn with my queen, or with his queen, as it's not really defended. He moves king down. I move bishop out. He now takes pawn. And here I'm like, interesting. What do I have to do? It's like I kind of have to do something that gets him to not give me a checkmate, right? Or like, pretty bad. So I move queen up. He gives me a check. I move king up, queen up. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, I think I messed up. I'm going to lose either on time or by checkmate because I really don't know what to do. I move king down again. And this is just like a repeat of moves. Not quite, I guess, but I was expecting him to come back down, and I just would have went back up for like a repeat of moves and just probably just kept repeating them. I don't know, because I don't exactly know what to do. So he moved king down for some reason. That's his first mistake because that allows me to give him a check. He moves king down. I take the free pawn. He takes my bishop. Now, the computer definitely has the best line here, and that's taking his knight with my bishop. I didn't see that because the time going by right now is like super low. Like we're getting down into like the seconds. Okay, I take a pawn. He takes my bishop. I give him a check with my bishop because he can't. He can take, I should say. He can take with his knight. But he didn't, because again, we're down to like, I think it's going down into like the 20 seconds. He moves king over. I take his queen. That's unfortunate because it was definitely his queen was pinned to his king. Right? Now he could take my bishop with his king, but he moved knight out. I think he's looking for a check or maybe a free pawn. I give him a check. I take his knight, give him another check. He moves king up. I move queen over. He moves king over. I give him a check. He moves up. I move up. He moves over. And I blundered because it's down. I'm at like 0.9 seconds right now. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just want to like checkmate him. Like, I don't know what to do. Bam. I took his pawn, completely forgetting that the h7 pawn defends. And I'm like, oh my god, no. I'm like, I'm going to lose. Like, it's lost. It's over. There's nothing. Then he moves king down. I move my queen up, and that's the end of the game. I won because he timed out, and it was extremely lucky, and so many blunders. But I'm not sad about the game. I'm actually pretty happy with it for my first 5-minute blitz game that I took seriously. It went better than I expected. I expected to lose or flag. I almost flagged, but I didn't. So I will take the win, and I will be a happy camper because it went very well. Now there's a forced checkmate here. And that forced checkmate is this. So that... I guess that is somewhere around in here is forced checkmate. I can't see that. Yeah. Okay, so that's forced checkmate. Yeah. Because the bishop is the center pawn. Let's draw this out. Let's draw this out. But let's be honest, like in a 5-minute blitz game, am I going to find that? No. I think I did pretty good with what I did. Right? So this is covered. This is covered. This is covered. And this is covered. So checkmate. But I mean from this position, am I going to find? I mean, I might have found d8, maybe. In the game I didn't. But maybe if I had more time to think about it, I might have found that. And then over. And then maybe I would have checked him again, right? And then, because there's like a free pawn I could take after that. But would I have just like taken this pawn randomly? Probably not. Probably wouldn't have done that. You know, I definitely don't think I would have found this. Maybe not even in a game where I have lots of time to think about it. So that's just I think like a pretty savage line that the computer is going over right there. But yeah, so I managed to win on time. My opponent played very well. There was definitely a lot of like trickery that he was doing with his knights, and it was a very good game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis of my game and my first 5-minute blitz against a Caro Kann defense. Probably don't recommend like a Vienna opening, but definitely Caro Kann. Any kind of game where they just do a one pawn move at the beginning, probably going for like just center control is your best bet, just until they open up and to see more of what they're doing. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And if you enjoy this game, make sure to subscribe because there will be more coming out, especially with the Chessmas specials. And make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And see you guys later.